Hey everybody, Raul Villarreal here and Mike McCarron doing the next episode of Let's Sync. And we're backfilling for John McGowan this week, but appreciate the opportunity. Raul Villarreal, I'm the SVP of Sales and Marketing here at HubSync. I've been here for about 4 months, and my job is to sit with our prospective clients at some of our top firms, CPA firms across North America. And really what I get to do is identify areas of opportunities where we can drive operational efficiencies with our platform. And looking mostly to uncover and identify quantifiable business results that we can deliver to the organization, leveraging our modern platform across the organization. I'll hand it over to Mike to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Raul. Yeah, so I'm Mike McCarron. I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at HubSync, and I joined a little bit after Raul did, but I've been here about 6 weeks or so. And my role and my job is to help our clients drive adoption and product rollouts and implementations to make sure they're getting full value and full the solutions that we offer in the markets. My background is I've been doing early stage and mid stage enterprise software company startups for about 25 years now, and really excited to be here at HubSync, but also here today on this podcast to talk about the things that we're seeing in the market and the things that we're hearing from our clients. And we're going to sort of look at sort of the market where it's going from 2 different perspectives, the prospective customer perspective and also the actual customer of HubSync's perspective. So we're excited about that today, and I'll let Raul go back and kick things off. And we've got a great discussion for us today and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Mike. So Mike and I, like he had just mentioned, we have pretty interesting vantage points that are a little bit different into the CPA market today. I spend most of my time speaking with firms that are evaluating change. So it's really prior to becoming a customer of HubSync. And I speak to CIOs, COOs, managing partners, and founding members of CPA firms. And they're looking to modernize, to take a look at growth. They're looking at a lot of different acquisitions to try to make the organizations run more smooth. Mike and his team, as he mentioned, they're working with firms after they've made that decisions. And so they're working with firms that have generally already operationalized those changes to help them work day by day in a more efficient way. And what's interesting is we're seeing some of the same topics just from different stages in the journey. So we had a great conversation today around those different sort of vantage points. And recently I had a conversation with a managing partner that really stuck with me. He said, we've always been investing in technology stacks that are modern for years, but during the busy season, which we're in right now, it feels like we're still duct taping things together. So they've already invested in technologies, but they're not seeing the value that they expected out of them. And I think that comment really is what we're dealing with today, what Mike and I are seeing sort of post HubSync. And then when these organizations have invested in other technologies outside of HubSync as well. And so, the busy season tends to reveal what these firms are actually doing as they're operating. And so we thought it'd be interesting to hear, to share what we've been hearing in the marketplace, for one, today, how AI actually fits into what they're trying to do today. And then what are we seeing as a next generation CPA firm will look like in the future? And so with that, we'll jump right in. Our first topic is around busy season and sort of that operational stress that we're seeing today. And one of the biggest patterns that I'm hearing when I'm talking with firm leaders is that in the busy season is when they get the ultimate operational stress test. During the rest of the year, things might feel manageable, right? Because they're not in the thick of it. They're moving, they're working, their clients are being served generally, and everything is functioning. But when the busy season hits and the volumes spike, it's when everything breaks down, right? It's when everything becomes visible, not only to the firm, but also to their client. And what we've seen happen across the profession over the past decade is that firms have layered their technologies over time. Certainly ones they've purchased, right, or acquired through technologies that they have acquired through acquisitions of other CPA firms, and it's become layered and a little bit more stitched together and even more difficult to use, right? They're using different tools for management, different engagement letters, something different for workflow, portals, so on and so forth. And individually, it made sense at the time, right, over these years to leverage and use. But the result is that many firms are now running a full engagement lifecycle across 5, 6, 7 different types of systems, whether it be across their enterprise, right, again, or across the CPA firm's enterprise and their platforms. In fact, we saw an industry survey recently that said every CPA firm, or the majority of CPA firms, are operating on 7 to 10 different lifecycle client systems throughout the year, right? And it's growing even more and more over time. And that's where we start to see the cracks show. In fact, I spoke with a COO recently and said during the busy season, they're still managing these clients across emails, across portals, across spreadsheets, all at the same time. And everyone is working hard, but the operational break and the cracks are being delivered up in front of them. And, it doesn't necessarily create the challenges during busy season, but it exposes them again to their clients who they're trying to build long-term relationships with, to the prospective clients for future revenues. And that's when it really hurts. It's when the volume spikes and it isn't their tax expertise. It's really the client demand is where they're challenged, right? In the operational coordination across all of them. So Mike, that's what I'm seeing ahead of time, right? When I'm having conversations with, like I said, CIOs, CEOs, managing partners, I'm curious, once they become customers, right? Once the other side of the house, I'm curious what you're seeing and what you're hearing.
Yeah, no, I think you've captured it really, really well, Rebel. I think that the big thing, going back to one of the earlier comments you made, which is clients and the firms that we work with today, even like firms that have been with HubSync for a while, even some of the newer customers that have worked with HubSync as part of their rollout for this current busy season for taxes, is, like you said, the systems that are in place today, the fragmented tech stack, the different systems that exist. What ends up happening is when you apply pressure, which is like busy season, you have this immovable date, these dates in terms of like mid-March and mid-April, those dates aren't moving. And so as a result, all the work has to get done by those deadlines. And what it's doing is it's exposing some of the operational and technical readiness of the firms that we work with. And again, every firm goes through this process. Some happen to be more prepared than others, but what we're seeing is that the companies that are going through busy season this year, if their operational process or their operational sort of flow of how they engage their clients isn't really, really well defined, or if the technology has gaps in it, like you mentioned, sort of kind of sticking things together, what ends up happening is there are bumps along the way, there are gaps in the process, and those gaps create potential for a client experience that's not up to where the firms want it to be. And I think it starts with one of the things I've learned in the short time that I've been here. One of the things that I think is most interesting is that the data accuracy or the data integrity of the information about the customers, the end consumer, inside of the various systems that a CPA firm has, it all starts there. If the data is not accurate, if the data is not complete, or if they don't have the right information in the right places, then the downstream automation and the downstream efficiency gains you're trying to get by using technology to solve that problem, those just get exposed. It's kind of like the mantra of like, get garbage in, garbage out. Like if the data is not good starting out, it's really difficult to drive efficient operational processes where you have to go back and kind of figure things out and fix things. Another thing we're seeing is that, mid-season changes, again, the operational readiness, a lot of firms came into this tax season starting to realize that, they wanted to make changes to their engagement letter. They wanted to make changes to the way they sort of like had files dropped off in terms of the firm's ability to collect that information. So when you have mid-season or mid-busy season changes, it creates a lot of friction and a lot of sort of challenges along the way, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to change the client experience midstream. And so we're definitely seeing some firms that are sort of going through that process. And again, from my perspective, it gives me a lot of insight as to how I'm going to prepare and think about next year's busy season and the work that we're going to do around that. I think client communication, how to engage them, how to communicate with them, and how to drive the experience and how to deliver the kind of customer experience that they want. That's a big, big part of a firm's success and their ability to retain customers and grow their business, which is clearly some people want to be able to be doing with them, right? So I think that a big part of what we're seeing in the busy season is we have companies that are trying to sort of move quickly, trying to service their clients the best way possible. There's new technology being introduced, or there's old legacy technology they need to migrate off of. And that whole process of the change management becomes a big part of where I think excellent firms will be able to sort of really deliver for their clients. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the session today.
That's great, Mike. And obviously, something that's top of mind, you probably know where I'm going to go here, but AI. We hear AI everywhere, right? Whether it's, on TV, on the radio, whether it's with our clients that I'm speaking to, our prospective clients, and obviously post clients, right? And they're asking us every day here at HubSync, how can I leverage AI? And it comes up in every single conversation today. But what I find interesting is that most of them aren't even asking, or what people assume they're going to ask, which is, how does it replace people with AI? They're not asking that. More importantly, they're asking something that is much more practical, which is, how can AI AI actually help my firm run better, right? And by run firm better, I think it is how do they serve their clients better? How do they run more operationally tight, right? And we talked a little bit about that before. There's technology, that's the core technology, and obviously the AI that's underneath it. And so really wondering, how do I run my firm better? In fact, I was doing some research recently, a couple weeks ago, and it said that about 80% of accounting firms are exploring AI right now, which is probably higher in my opinion, but the stats said 80% of firms are exploring AI right now. I think most organizations are all exploring it as well. But what they said was also that only 20% have actually really even deployed it within their organizations or within workflow. I was actually at a CIO summit in February. There was about 40 CIOs there. And at the beginning, they asked everybody to stand out and share, which firm they were with, which number firm they were with, right? What was their rank, and what were their top priorities for the year. And I just said 80% of the firms are exploring AI. 100% of these CIOs stood up, right? These were top 50 firms, and said that their top priority was AI, right? And then there was so there was AI, and then named some others. And then there was a session a little bit later on AI. And what I thought was actually fascinating is that these CIOs said AI is important to our business. That is our top priority. We have and the business is telling us that they want us to explore AI and deploy AI. And all of them, majority of them stood up and also said, I actually don't know how to use it. I don't know what technology to use it in. I don't even know what I want it to do for us. But what I do know is it is the buzzword out there, and I do know that I should be getting value from it. And I thought that was interesting, and I do actually believe it. That people want it, just not sure how to use it in the right way. And so if you look at if you look at the life cycle of an engagement, right, from engagement letter to onboarding a client all the way through delivering the work, AI can actually create a lot of value inside of that life cycle. So I'm sure that you're getting a lot of folks that are asking you, how can we leverage HubSync, right? Or even other technologies. I think it's always great to hear what other technologies are delivering from an AI point of view. And what I've been integrating into my conversations, I've learned, which is AI does not fix the process, but rather amplifies the good ones, right? I think also we can identify where the challenging ones are and try to help deliver value there. So I'm curious, Mike, when you're working with our clients today, where are you actually seeing that AI can start to create real value for them, where it can sort of reduce friction in what they're doing, right?
I think a lot of the AI, I think the AI is going through this, we're in the middle of this very, very interesting transformation. It's one of the largest transformation that's come along in a long time. Mobile was probably the last sort of like really raw, sort of like a core sort of like disruptive transformation. And then it was, web and .com before that. But AI is everywhere. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, how do I make sense of it, right? And I think early stages and early sort of adoption of AI has largely been around, how do you leverage AI to provide, insights and summary and sort of wrap up of a lot of the activities. Like people are using it for call recordings, and they're using it for email summaries and document preparation and drafting sort of articles and what have you. And I think the early stages of AI are going to evolve into sort of much more meaningful and much more valuable sort of applications of AI. So it could be right now, it could be, okay, how does AI help think about the end-to-end process or the end-to-end, cycle of organizing documents and grabbing information and making sure that customers are providing all the necessary documentation and all the necessary information required, so that there's no gaps, there's no sort of like missing pieces. So taking the manual effort out of back and forth dialogue, back and forth exchange with clients to try to gather the information. How can AI sort of assess what's in the document repository for a particular client and say, we've got 90% of the documents there, or we're missing a bunch of pieces that we need, go find those and go ask those for the client. I think that's sort of like early stages, probably sort of like pretty low hanging fruit, if you will, there. I think where the true value of AI comes into play is it's allowing the firm partners to have more insights to be able to deliver a better client experience and a better customer experience to the customers that they work with. So what are the insights that they need to be gathering? Like, what are the things that are going to be interesting that prevent the firm partners from having to spend hours and hours and hours digesting, looking at the information? But how do you roll that information up to provide that partner with a much more meaningful and much more sort of interesting summary and insights of the things that they need to do and have to be able to deliver a better experience for their clients. And so I think, you want to look at AI as a force multiplier for how do you allow for fewer people to do more work and to do more work better on behalf of their clients. It starts with getting the right information, it starts with getting the right process in place, and it starts with like optimizing and creating sort of that nice workflow of beginning process, middle of the process to the end of the process. But ultimately what it comes down to is AI's true value is going to be delivered when partners can leverage AI to do their job better. They're going to magnify their ability to deliver great experiences for their clients and do great things for the customer. And I think that's where AI is driving. That's where AI is heading. And I think firm partners today want to use AI. I think at the moment, there's probably a lot of like operational efficiency that can be gained by AI. But I think the downstream benefits and the downstream value to firms is going to be to say, okay, once we've optimized the experience, how do we actually deliver more insights and a deeper, more higher quality experience for the clients that they serve? That's where it's going to make a huge difference because the customer is going to feel if they're being taken care of better. The firm partners are going to have more time to sort of spend and invest in that relationship with the client as opposed to doing a lot of the busy work on the back end. And I think that's truly where AI is going. And it's also part of what we see from product, development and sort of where we're thinking about from a roadmap perspective. We want to be in that place to provide customers the ability for AI to be sort of woven into all the things that they already do through HubSync.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, right? I think, if we can, how I mentioned the CIOs that I heard a couple of weeks ago, raising their hands in the business, they're hearing from the business areas of opportunity that AI can support. And if we can get to those messages earlier, I really think we can help organizations scale quickly and more efficiently. And actually, the good transition there, I think, is into one of the third areas that I'm seeing out in the marketplace, and certainly you are with our customers once they come on and really supporting them and how they do this, which is M&A, right? M&A is always inevitable in the world, right? But in the CPA space, it is unreal how much M&A action is happening on a daily basis, right? And so it's very significant. And then there's a lot of structural changes that come with that, right? When you get it. And part of where that came from, right, is everybody who is listening to this obviously knows private equity has accelerated M&A just dramatically, right? And we're seeing this more and more across this particular industry, right? And the data shows that 70% of the top 100 firms have recently had or completed an acquisition. And then many regional firms are now completing 3 to 5 acquisitions a year. And so that does a couple different things. One is we're seeing that, these top 100 firms, they're, when you look at an acquisition, they're obviously looking for the financial gains, but they're also looking at how can we acquire this organization and roll it into ours in a very seamless way, right? And seamless is a couple different things. One, there's the margin that you get off when you do acquire the organization. But two, most importantly, is how are these firms keeping up the good customer service that they have with their clients? And that's the biggest area of importance for them. So it's not just organic anymore. It's through acquisition that we're seeing so much growth. And there's a whole different operational challenge. And so it brings back what you and I had initially talked about, right? What are some of the operational challenges that we see that aren't even associated with growth or acquisitions? And how are organizations leveraging AI technology today to be more efficient, but also to be a differentiator? And some of their biggest challenges integrating these clients or services were some of the operational challenges on the back end, different systems, different engagement processes, and then interacting with the clients in a totally different way than they have before. So I'm curious, what are you hearing from our clients? And I have some follow-on data points, but I'm curious what you're hearing from some of our clients. Is it data ready? I'm sorry, is it readiness that you might be acquired, so you want to be more attractive, right? And then looking at organizations that you can roll in to your firm in a much smoother, faster, and more efficient way.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on a really interesting sort of theme and sort of trend, which is there's a lot of consolidation in the market. But there's not only technology, sort of tech stack, sort of software consolidation, but there's consolidation in the firms as well. And whenever you have two different firms coming together, you have a different, operating model, you have different ways in which the firms operate and run their business. You actually have different client experiences oftentimes from those two organizations. And I think the biggest thing that we see and that I'm seeing in the short time that I've been here is that the change management motion, the change management sort of like process of how two firms come together and operate as one, and how they deliver a consistent experience to their clients, or how two firms come together and think about consolidation of the tech staff or consolidation of the technology that's been used in the past. I think the biggest factor of a firm's ability to adequately and successfully navigate the M&A process, or to navigate bringing folks together, is, are they actually able to deliver on that change management that's needed to be able to sort of give both the firm partners and the supporting staff around them and the end client experience? Are they able to actually navigate that well? Because you and I, probably seen this many, many times in terms of our experiences, that when you try to put two different cultures and two different teams and two different ways of doing business together, if those two organizations don't come together and figure out what is the right way to sort of operate as a go forward company, then it oftentimes it's sort of like a battle where there's a lot of friction inside, and the client will see it. Like the end consumer client will see if there's friction or inconsistencies in that overall experience. So I think that the firms that are doing this well today, and I think, back to, what do the great CPA firms look like moving forward in the midst of consolidation, M&A, tech stack, sort of like consolidation and sort of digital transformation, all of those aspects. I think what you're going to find, and what we're going to find, is that the firms that understand how to navigate the change management, both inside the firm and outside for their clients, those who can navigate that process well are going to have a much different experience, much more positive experience as a result, because they're able to recognize that in order to be successful in the future, they have to change the way they operate and change the way the company is working. So that's a big, big part, I think, of where I see the future of CPA firms, is that change management, both technology adoption, but also how the company actually operates, a big part of how I think it's going to be successful.
Yeah, very good. And what I'm seeing too, and I'm guessing you are, is the modern way of growing, in general, but certainly with the CPA firms we're speaking to, is certainly best-in-class technology, single unified platforms, leveraging AI, for sure. But what I'm seeing is it takes forward-looking executives to be able to support these initiatives and to be able to to sponsor this as an executive to get it forward. Are you seeing people step up on the back end, like post HubSync, in other technologies even that they're looking at, where they are forward thinking to be an executive sponsor to get this across the line?
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think if you think, I've had this conversation both in this industry as well as in any other industry, is that if technology in and of itself is looked at as the silver bullet to solve a problem that the firm is trying to address, and there's no vision or executive sponsor that's driving the change management inside the organization to leverage and make full use of that technology, then you're going to have an underwhelming experience across them, right? So people who I'm buying technology and I'm buying this software or this technology platform, and it's going to quote unquote solve all my problems, without also recognizing what is the change management required and what resources are needed and who on the executive sponsor side is required to champion and shepherd that project through the process. Like, you have to have that, right? And that team and those resources can mobilize one another. They can sort of prioritize the initiative and the investments that's being made. So it's really, really important that technology is a huge enabler to growth, and it's a huge enabler to change and improvements. But if it doesn't have the support and the backing of a visionary leader that says, I see the value of where this is going to go, and I also recognize internally, what does my organization need to do and how do I need to change to take full advantage of adopting that technology? That's a huge part of the success, right? The other thing is that oftentimes, and this is, again, goes beyond just the tax industry, it's any software business, companies will build processes around the technology that's available to them at any given moment, right? So they will build process and they will build structure and they will build the overall way in which the business runs to optimize for a particular technology. But if you fast forward the clock 5 years or 7 years or 10 years later, the technology may not have kept pace and the organization needs to operate differently. So when new technology like HubSync comes along, and you look at that new technology, what you don't want to do is you don't want to just replicate the old business processes that have existed in the new technology, because what you're essentially doing is you're optimizing the process for old tech when the new tech that's coming along is actually designed to improve and drive efficiency there. So great example is that you might have 5 or 6 or 7 different individual point solutions on the back end that's stitching together the overall experience for a client. What you don't want to do is like insert new technology that is all encompassing driving the complete end-to-end experience and try to replicate all of the different sort of like touch point solutions that already existed, right? So an executive leader inside of a firm has to recognize that the new technology offers huge sort of like reasons for sort of like change. But if the firm doesn't adopt and embrace those changes to leverage the full technology capabilities of the new platform, then you're going to sort of under-deliver and underwhelm on the ability for that software solution to actually drive real change inside the organization. So I think that if you don't have that exec sponsor that's sort of really championing that effort, what you essentially get is you get technology that's being put in place that is just a replacement for the old process, and it actually isn't driving the efficiency you're hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. You said, a couple of things that resonate with me when I'm, like I said, when I'm sitting every day with CIOs and partners and managing partners and other organizational owners. Something I'm seeing every day too is they want to jump in, they want to leverage technologies, but there's some fear around the risk because they either have other failed projects, because potentially the technology that someone else or that HubSync is going to implement could disrupt their business, right? And so one of the major sort of parts of my job is to sit down and not only identify where these operational opportunities are, where the value is that they can actually go out and get, but most importantly, to build trust, right? At the end of the day, we're going to be implementing technology that is going to, to drive change. And that's what we want. And what you said and that resonated is that like they're going to have to go all in and it's going to change. Well, they're going to have to make changes. If they don't make some of the changes from the old way of doing it, and then you just stick technology on it, it may not make big strides like you're looking for. So you got to be willing to make some changes and come out with a better result. And so I think that partnership and the trust to reduce risk is huge, right? So we're definitely dealing with that when we are working with our prospective clients. And then you get the pleasure too of going home and driving that hope with them.
Yeah, I think you said a really important point back there, Raul, is like clients, the customers that we work with, the firms that we work with, they need to have confidence in HubSync's ability to sort of like guide them through this change process. They need to trust us that we have sort of a thought of different best practices mindset around how best to take advantage of and to leverage the technology and services that we offer, right? So I think part of our responsibility as a team in partnering with you and also partnering with the partner firms that we work with is that we have to show and demonstrate that we have a vision for what a modern sort of like CPA firm looks like and how they can take full advantage of the HubSync solution and offering. And we need to walk that customer through how to best navigate that change, how to best leverage the technology and capabilities that we have. And if we don't earn their trust and we don't build confidence and we don't sort of like establish thought leadership and best practices, then I think the risk that a lot of these firms are probably looking at is of saying, I've gotten burned in the past and I've had underwhelming software deployments or underwhelming technology adoption in the past. And like, what's going to be different with HubSync? So I think for me and for my team, this is one of the most exciting parts of my job is that I'm coming in knowing that our ability to deliver great experiences and to drive business value and outcomes by leveraging the HubSync platform and solution. Like if we can do that, we can build a community of just widely referenceable customers that are extremely successful, not only with the technology, but with the firm experience and the customer experience that technology enables and allows them to deliver. Right. So if we can do that well, and we can sort of guide that customer or guide the firm through the various stages of technology implementation, of change management, of education and enablement of both the firm resources as well as the clients, and then delivering great ongoing service and support for our customers as they go through the year. Like that's a big part of what I'm excited about in my role and what I'm excited about teams. I also look at back to the original topic we were talking about at the very beginning around operational readiness and technical readiness. And I can envision and see our ability as a company and as an organization to think about a calendar year and to think about all the things that have to happen at various stages of the year in that I know that we're right in the middle of the busy season right now. And after April, things will quiet down a little bit. Things pick up again in the fall. But the real work, I think, to get ready for next year's sort of like March and April busy tax season, that's all going to start in like the October, November timeframe. And so what I'm envisioning doing with clients that we have today, as well as future clients that come on board, is thinking about how does the calendar year, November, December sort of timeframe, what are the things that we need to do as a company, HubSync, to prepare our clients to be efficient and ready? And what do they need to be working on during that timeframe? Then in the January, February timeframe, what are the activities that need to be happening? And so we're thinking about the workflow and the end customer experience around what needs to be happening and how do we get the firms that we work with to be prepared and ready to do the work at the right time of the year so we can avoid as much as possible the crunch time and the chaos that happens during the busiest season of the year. And I'm thinking about that as far as technology adoption and rollout, but also the change management piece and what does the firm need to do to be able to prepare their clients to have a much more streamlined, much more efficient experience doing their taxes in the future. So that's a big part of what I'm excited about and I'm going to be working with the team on to drive that understanding of operational and technical readiness. If we do that right, we can eliminate a lot of the friction and a lot of the chaos and a lot of the sort of the high energy sort of like activities that are required to kind of piece it all together in time for those big deadlines that happen in March.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, Mike. And I think, as we talked about today, the firms, sort of to wrap up, the firms that seem to be navigating all this change most successfully are the ones who are intentional about the way that they operate. They're simplifying the technology environment like we talked about. They're thinking carefully about where AI fits for them and how is it going to affect them in the long run so that they do it the right way. And they're totally redesigning the way the firm actually runs as they continue to grow, whether it is organically or whether it is through acquisition. And from where I sit, and I think you would agree probably, Mike, it's actually a very exciting moment in this profession because there's a lot of firms that are actually investing in transformation in what could be seen as an archaic technology stack in the past, right? That haven't changed. So very exciting space. Certainly, I get to see a lot of stuff on the front end. I get to sit with a lot of folks who are excited to progress their organization in the back office and are willing to sit down and partner in those areas. Certainly, you get to see it with our customers once they have partnered with us. I'm excited to see a lot of the results and hear new things too, not only how they've leveraged HubSync today, but how they're going to continue the partnership with other parts of our platform. And so, it's great to sit here with you today. I don't know if you have any closing remarks, but
yeah, I mean, the last thought I would share is like you're getting at is that I think what makes this really interesting is that this can become sort of a virtuous cycle, and what you're hearing from prospective customers is how is the market changing? How is AI being adopted? Like how are successful firms navigating sort of this change management and sort of operational sort of changes with regards to growth and expansion and M&A? And what I want to be able to do for both our existing customers, but also to help with prospective customers, is to sort of establish and prove out what good looks like. What does a great experience look like for our clients? How do we build and create a community of customers that are part of the HubSync family, if you will? And how do those firms interact with one another? And how do they communicate? And how do they share ideas? And how do they sort of like learn from one another, right? Everyone's in the same business. And obviously there's big firms, mid-sized firms, and then some sort of like smaller firms out there, but they all have clients that have expectations. They all have sort of like a service and a product, if you will, to deliver for their customers. And I think the more that HubSync can become a place where not only existing firms that we have learn from one another and they gain sort of like valuable insights from working with other customers that are sort of part of the HubSync community, but I want that same community to be a resource for prospective customers to say, hey, how are you all doing this? And how are you all navigating? And how did you navigate this transformation from point solutions and fragmented technology over to a single solution, single platform with AI sort of woven out throughout the whole process? Because I think what will end up happening is that the firms that we work with will each other learn about sort of what good looks like and how to sort of deliver great client experiences for their customers. And I want that to be a draw for prospective customers to say, hey, what can I learn from the HubSync community? What can I learn from the customers that are doing this? Because if we can become a thought leader in the space to do that, I think what it will end up doing is it will allow other prospective customers to have a higher degree of trust and confidence that by selecting HubSync and going with the platform, they're not only going to get a great technology solution, but they're going to get a very supported network of customers that have proven and gone through this process or has learned along the way. And by leveraging those learnings, I think it allows for the entire industry to become better for clients and better for the firm partners that we work with. So I'm just really, really excited about that and thinking that that's where we're going to head as a company. And that's the sort of the community of customers that I'd like to build as part of this journey.